Hi, and welcome back to the channel. When I started this channel, all of 3 weeks ago, I assumed that the information I would be giving would apply to both HSPs as well as introverts. And that's correct up to a point. People constantly confuse HSP and being an introvert. And that can lead to bad advice, misunderstanding what it is you need, and kind of a whole host of problems that just add to the original condition in the first place. So in this video, I want to talk about the similarities and differences between an HSP and an introvert, and talk about the strategies that work for either or for both, so that you can determine which one works best for you. Hi, my name is Maureen. Welcome back to the channel, HSP by Design, where we talk everything HSP. So let's talk about the difference. Now, personally, I am both an introvert and an HSP. But not all HSPs are introverts. In fact, about 30% of HSPs consider themselves to be extroverts. So not everyone who is highly sensitive is introverted. What the, how can that be? Let me explain. Let's run a little experiment. Does this sound like you? You need downtime after being around people. You feel overwhelmed in busy environments. You feel drained faster than the people around you, even when it's an activity that you really enjoy. A lot of people that experience these three things tell themselves, well, I guess I'm just an introvert. And that's what I thought too, until I heard the term HSP. Because here's the thing, you might not be an introvert at all. You might be a highly sensitive person, and that's not the same thing. And so many people get this wrong because on the surface, they can look very similar. We both get overwhelmed. We both can need alone time. So for the most part, we lump them together and call it a day. But when you do that, you run the risk of solving the wrong problem, and that's where the frustration can creep in. So let me break it down. Introversion is a feature of one's temperament. It's primarily focused on where people get their energy from. Introverts are drained by other people. Extroverts are energized by other people. Introverts generally need to recharge in stillness and alone time because excessive people exposure can drain their battery. And that's the sum total of being an introvert. It is not sensory overload. It is not total overwhelm. It is generated by the amount and the duration and the personalities of the other people that you surround yourself with. So for introverts, it's all about whether or not the situation is too people-y or not. At its core, introversion is about where you get your energy. So because of that, introverts prefer to recharge in quiet and alone time. They often prefer smaller groups or one-on-one as opposed to large gatherings. And too much social interaction can drain them. And that's it. It's not about being shy. It's not about being antisocial. It's about how your energy system works socially. Okay, now let's talk about HSPs. So for an introvert, if it's all about the people, for an HSP, it's all about the stimulation. Highly sensitive people are born with wiring that is often compared to a sixth sense. We are extremely perceptive, sensitive, and observant. And we have finer discrimination than the general population of non-HSPs. So as an HSP, I consider myself the canary in the coal mine. I'm going to notice things before other people. Sights, smells, sounds, emotions, feelings. I'm going to pick up on the nuances of all of those things before the average Joe or Josephina. Being an HSP is all about sensory processing. We pick up on things deeper and quicker than the general population. And again, that can be noise, light, energy, yours and other people's, and just sensory experiences that you notice the nuances of before other people do, or if they ever do. Your nervous system takes in more and processes it more deeply, which means you get overwhelmed faster. And it can really feel like you're being bombarded. And it's not just socially and incurred by people as it is for an introvert, but all of the sensory experiences that you take in just in your daily course of life. Let's talk about where the two overlap, because that's where the confusion begins. An HSP may avoid crowded spaces. They may need downtime. They may feel drained after excessive socializing. So it can look like introversion, but that overlap is only part of the picture. Let's talk about where they diverge. Here's the key difference. Introverts are drained by people. HSPs are drained by stimulation. And that's a huge distinction. And you go about the fixes for those in different ways. Because an HSP can be very social and love people. You know, an HSP can be the last one to leave a party. Not this HSP, but a lot of HSPs really do get their energy from people. Those are the extroverted HSPs. But if an HSP is subjected to an environment, regardless of the number of people, that is loud, chaotic, or emotionally stressful, they can hit a wall. On the flip side, an introvert can feel quite content in a calm social setting, but they're still going to need some time alone to recharge. Different cause, same outward behavior. Let's talk about real life examples. Scenario number 1, dinner with friends. An introvert may enjoy this very much, but still need alone time afterwards or the next day to recharge. They are as impervious to other stimuli at that dinner than an extrovert would be. So if the conversation gets lively or intense or fueled by too much alcohol, that's not going to be draining to the introvert per se. Now, an HSP could also enjoy said dinner party, but if the environment of a restaurant is loud, if the lighting is harsh, and if the conversation gets emotionally heavy, that's going to drag an HSP down. Let's talk about a different scenario. How about a quiet day at home? An introvert can have a quiet day at home and totally recharge. Now, an HSP could potentially have a quiet day at home, but if that is overcharged with some really deep thinking, juggling a lot of projects, just a lot to do, and they're being bombarded by different sensory stimuli, that's not going to be a recharging day for an HSP. If there's a lot of work stress, noise, screen time, processing of emotions, that day is not going to be regenerative for an HSP at all. For example, one of my biggest stressors is a cluttered environment. And I have stopped staying at Airbnbs, well, for a number of reasons that are not the purpose of this video. But for one of the primary reasons is that they just seem to decorate them with all these stupid little cluttery tchotchkes that serve no purpose and just clutter up my field of vision. And they prevent me from being efficient because they're taking up space that I could be using for other things. I need clean, minimalist spaces because I can't process when there's too much visual clutter in my line of sight. An introvert, on the other hand, maybe wouldn't even notice that. They would only feel overwhelmed if there was a bunch of people in their Airbnb, which is not likely. So for an introvert, it's I need less people time. For an HSP, it's I need less stimulation of all types for the most part. So to paraphrase, if you have an introvert, an extrovert, and an HSP, and they all walk into a bar, the introvert's going to say, whoa, a lot of people, I'm going to have to recharge tomorrow. The extrovert says, whoa, people, sweet. HSP will say, why is the music so loud? Why is the light so bright? Who are those drunk guys arguing in the corner? And this to the extrovert, oh, for the love of God, please don't order those smelly chili fries. They'll just put me over the top. So here are some side-by-side practical adjustments to help you determine which levers to pull if you're feeling overwhelmed. It depends on whether you're an HSP or an introvert. Social plans, for example. An introvert will want to limit those potentially in frequency and size. Either fewer events, smaller groups, or limited duration. Those are the three things when it comes to social activities that can help an introvert function. An HSP has to control the intensity and the environment. So it's not just who you're with and for how long, it's what is the environment going to produce. So you're going to want more like, a quieter venue, off-peak times. Maybe you want to sit outside. Maybe you want to avoid back-to-back events. Those are the things that are going to help an HSP cope with their sensitivities. How about your workday setup? Your introvert is going to want to limit their back-to-back meetings. They're going to want to schedule some solo time in between their people time, if it's possible for you to regulate that. They're going to want to protect their deep work time. An HSP, on the other hand, is going to want to reduce sensory overload. So maybe it has nothing to do with how many people you come into contact with in a given day. Maybe you need to put on your noise canceling headphones. Your desk probably needs to be decluttered. You might need a softer work light than the average person. Fewer tabs open on your computer. Fewer alerts going ping, ping, ping on your telephone every 10 seconds. How about evenings after a busy day? An introvert is just going to need some solo recharge time. So whether that's downtime in front of the TV or going for a walk, as long as you're away from people in the evening, an introvert is going to thrive. An HSP, on the other hand, has to decompress the nervous system. You might need no screen time or really dim lights. You might need to take a shower or a bath, play calm music, and just have a very gentle routine by yourself or with trusted others that helps you decompress from all the sensory stimuli that you had to process during the day. Number 4, how we handle overwhelm. An introvert simply needs to step away from people. That's it. They just need to step away from people, if it's possible, when they're feeling overwhelmed. So that could be as simple as rescheduling a meeting or just cutting it short. It's all about how much people interaction you have. Now, an HSP has to lower the stimulus, whether that means leaving a noisy space, taking a step outside for a moment or two, finding a quiet corner to breathe, taking a rest, anything to reduce sensory input. How about boundaries with others? An introvert only has to set a limit for the number of social, people-y interactions they have in the course of a given week. That's it. If they're getting overwhelmed, they just have to limit those types of events. An HSP might be able to say, I can do it if it is low-key, shorter duration, in a quiet environment, those types of things. You're negotiating conditions, not attendance. How about travel or even just running errands? An introvert is going to want to go solo or only with one other person and keep their itinerary light in the people situation. An HSP is going to have to choose their timing a lot more selectively. An HSP is probably going to be happier traveling in off-peak season, going to activities at off-peak times of the day, and putting a buffer in place between stops. HSPs constantly feel like they have to go, 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 go when they're on vacation. And I don't know about you other HSPs, but that does not work for me. I need to travel at a very slow pace. I don't go traveling to a place and spend a night in this city and then move on to the next city and a night here and 2 nights there. Not me. I go, I find a place to stay that doesn't have a lot of sensory overload, and I park myself there for 2 weeks so that I can take my time and explore at my leisure. And the same thing goes for running errands. I don't jam-pack my day with errands because I know that that is too much stimulus for me and I can't process it all. Let's talk about introverts and HSPs when it comes to information intake, like the news and social conversations. An introvert just needs to limit that interaction and a lot of excessive social chatter. An HSP has to curate their intensity. I have to limit my exposure to the headlines. I mute heavy topics that I can't take bombarding me over and over and over, particularly if they are negatively related, like war and politics. I particularly avoid emotionally charged topics before bed. I avoid emotionally charged entertainment before bed. I think I mentioned this in another video, but that show that's all the rage now, The Pit, oh my gosh, I tried watching that and I think it's very well done and my husband loves it, but it's so realistic that I just found myself getting all worked up and trying to decompress after that and go to sleep. was just impossible. So I had to stop watching it. Your approach to productivity is also going to be different whether you're an HSP or an introvert. An introvert just has to the best of their ability, schedule fewer meetings and more independent tasks. An HSP has to set up their day so that there are fewer simultaneous inputs. HSPs are notorious single taskers, which the flip side means we don't multitask well. I would argue that nobody does well with multitasking, but HSPs in particular have to be cognizant that that is not an environment in which we thrive. One thing at a time should be the mantra for HSPs. So you want to set clear priorities to avoid overload. Maybe you want to batch your notifications so they come in once every 30 minutes or once every hour. You need to regulate the amount of sensory input that you're having to process in the course of a day. How about your relationships? Introverts prefer depth and they generally need to protect their alone time. An HSP has to protect their emotional bandwidth. So we limit time with draining people. We space out our heavy conversations and we allow for recovery time afterwards. So here's your energy rule of thumb. For an introvert, fewer people equals more energy. For an HSP, less stimulation equals more energy. And if someone is both, like I am, and which is very common, you need to engage both of these levers. Fewer people and lower intensity. And it can sometimes feel like a full-time job trying to regulate that, but that's what this channel is going to be all about. So if you've been calling yourself an introvert, you might be right, but that might not be the extent of how you're wired, and you may be only partially solving the problem. And that's where things can start to shift, because once you understand what's actually draining you, you can start making small changes that make a huge difference in how your life runs day to day. So if you're seeing yourselves a little bit more clearly now, well, that's the reason I made this video. You will probably want to stick around, whether you're an introvert or an HSP. This channel is called HSP by design, and we are talking about life strategies as an HSP. But as you can see, some of these overlap with being an introvert. Just be really clear on what it is that is draining you so that you don't implement the wrong strategies. Because this channel is all about working with your wiring, not against it. Please drop a comment below if you feel that this has been helpful or if you've struggled with the distinction between introvert and HSP. I'd love it if you would like and subscribe. And until then, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.